Welcome to Reflect from TV with Dr. Mark. And today we are looking at episode 3, Why Children Are Silent Even When They Are Hurting. Today we want to understand the dynamics of fear, shame, and silence. In the last episode, we dealt extensively on what signs parents must know why their children are silent, even when they want to speak out. One of the biggest misconceptions parents have is this: if there's anything wrong with my child, he will tell me. Why would my child be hurting and they won't tell me? Of course, I know. If anything is wrong with my child, I know my child will tell me. But what if I told you that most children are not silent because nothing is happening, like I've always told in all the episodes, but children are silent because they are afraid to speak? Now, I want you to take note of this, that these children are not silent not because they don't trust you. They are not silent not because they don't want help. Of course, they want help, but they are silent because they don't feel safe enough to say it. A parent had once told me this before, but I always told my children to speak out if anything was wrong. But you know what? Years later, this particular mother found out that the daughter had actually been struggling in silence. She has been nursing the pain in silence, not because she didn't teach her, but because fear was louder than her voice. The truth is, when you listen to true stories that people share or conversations people discuss online, there is this particular pattern that keeps showing up. Their children truly want to speak out, but something kept stopping them from speaking out. What is this thing that is stopping them? Even when you have built their confidence over time. And that something is not always visible, it's not always obvious, but it's powerful enough to keep them silent for months, even years. So let's comport ourselves and discuss this thing extensively. Why do children stay silent? Why nursing hurting and pain, even when they want to speak up? The first reason is fear of not being believed. Many children are afraid of not being believed. If they speak out, will they believe me? Especially if the person involved is someone adults trust so much, or someone the family believes so much in, or maybe someone that is a helper to the family. So they will rather not speak out, they will rather stay silent or quiet in the inside. Let me shock you with this story. There was this scenario that happened some time ago that a young lady of 2 daughters came and testified in the church that the father had passed on. And we kind of did see the remorse in her, the death of the father. And it was later we realized that the father, when alive, was actually molesting her 2 granddaughters. Now, and they were staying with him. How do you expect the children to speak up? Now, or how do you expect the mothers to blow it out? Of course, nobody will believe. So they rather stay silent, nursing their silence in pain and hurting. It was until the dad died that they later found out the truth. I've seen a scenario where a child tried to say something or a child tried to hit at something. But the good response she would get was, "Don't say a thing like that. How would you say that?" And this child will become cold, quiet, and silent for the rest of her life. Like the illustration I gave earlier, these children were speaking, but they were shut down from speaking. It was later on, everything came out bare. So the first thing is, do you have to shut them down? It kills their confidence. And this is why most children are not speaking out. It puts fear in them. Now, the second reason is fear of consequences or fear of what happened next. Some children are considerate enough to think, if I speak out, what will be the outcome? What will be the aftermath of my revealing what is happening? Will it be trouble for me? Will it be trouble for the family? Now, this consideration also runs through their mind, so they would rather be quiet and nurse their pain in silence. And maybe because they've been told over time or sometime before, don't say a thing like that. Why will you say that? So such, again, make them feel probably there are looming troubles when they air out or they speak things like that. So they would rather not speak. This showed up a lot in real life discussions where people later in life will say they didn't speak out then because they felt that it was going to uh, scatter the family, it was going to cause chaos and conflict in the family. And guess what? It will be later in life they'll speak out. Then they had already gone through the pains. Guess what the third reason is? The third reason is shame and confusion. Yes, you heard me right. Now, sometimes these children don't even understand what is happening. No, they don't really understand what is happening, but they just know in the inside, they just know within that something is wrong. So that confusion, this confusion, eventually turns to shame. And shame has the capacity to lock any grave occurrence in any child. A child may think, maybe I did something wrong. And when they feel responsible, when they reason about the situation that happened and they take responsibility, truth be told, confidence is gone and silence becomes the hiding place. The fourth reason is threats and manipulation. Yes, don't tell anyone, okay? You don't have to tell anyone. If you tell anyone, now in that kind of scenario, the child is warned not to tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. Or made to feel something bad will happen if they speak out. And for a child, that fear built inside them is so real and tangible, so they'd rather not speak out. Reason 5, no safe space to talk. Now, this is very, very critical, and every other reason are hinged to this. A serious work is done on this, and a safe space is created for them to speak. Every other reason that we have discussed previously is not powerful enough to keep them silent. No. So this is very important and critical. Now, some children don't speak out because they don't feel emotionally safe at home. Now, understand me, not unsafe, but they are not safe enough to discuss difficult matters or things like this. After listening to several conversations from parents, openly, privately, even online, I've come to understand something very deep, that silence is really not the absence of a problem. It's oftentimes and most times the presence of fear. And a silent child is never a safe child. What should I do as a parent? Well, start by creating a safe environment where your child will speak, be heard without fear, nurse their objections, control their fear. This is because in many homes, especially in many African family settings, children are taught to obey, but not always taught that their voice matters and that being silent can cause more than they will ever realize. And this is why we need to be available for these kids, because they need a lot of work done in them. Because you don't know who is speaking into their lives. You don't know who is telling them to do this or do that. The society is out there telling them so many things not to do or to do. By the time you are available for these children, you study and understudy them. You know exactly where they're hot, where they're silent. Because like I said earlier, a silent child is not a safe child. So in the next episode, we are going to be discussing something very, very important, what most parents struggle with. And that is how to have the conversation, how to talk to your children about safety without fear or confusion. If this makes you think a little, then share it. Because one parent coming across this conversation can save a child's destiny. And if you are serious about protecting a particular child or counseling a child, then subscribe now, because this is a conversation that must continue. Because when we talk about family, it may necessarily not be your family. The definition of family can be the community, it can be a relative. We are not just talking about nuclear family when we talk of family. Extended family can also be suffering these things and you're not aware. And the knowledge you have from this or share from this or this video you share will go a long way handling certain matters that wouldn't have come to your knowledge. Because sometimes the silence we see in children is the child hoping that someone will notice my silence for my safety. Like I always say, children don't speak in words, they speak through behavior, they speak through signs, they speak in silence. Thank you for joining us on Reflect Room. So if you've not subscribed yet, subscribe now, share, click the notification bell so that you get notified by the time we drop the next video. Stay connected.